In this video, we're going to take a look at the relationship between fractions, decimals, and percents. So to begin with, let's just start with the fractions and the decimals. Well, fractions and decimals is pretty easy. If, for example, I have 1/5 as a fraction, remember the fraction bar basically means division, so I'm going to have 1 divided by 5, which ends up being 0.2. Now if I have a mixed number, let's say it was 3 and let's say 3/10. Okay, I can still think about this as 3 plus then whatever 3 divided by 10 is. So 3 divided by 10 would be 0.3. The 3 would be the whole number in front of the decimal. So it's pretty straightforward. To look to go from decimals to fractions, this is where your place value comes in. So if I have 0.456, okay, keep in mind this place is the tenths, which means it's out of 10. This place is for the hundredths, so it would be 45 out of 100 if that was it. And then this place would be the thousandths. So if I go tenths, hundredths, thousandths, I would read this as 456 thousandths. So it's 456 out of 1,000. And then of course I would have to reduce that. So looking at this, 456 is divisible by 2. So it would be 228 out of 500. That is also divisible by 2. So it would be 114 out of 250. Divisible by 2 again would be 57 out of 125. Okay, and that might be about it. Because 57 is divisible by 3, but 125 is not. So this would be my final solution. So basically with turning decimals to fractions is I begin with what the place value, basically how I would read this according to the place value, whether it be tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000s, 100,000s, so on. And then I just reduce the fractions. So even if you are looking at, instead of finding what the greatest common factor is, if you know that something's divisible by 2, just go ahead and divide it by 2 and continue working until you get to your final answer. When I begin to look at how do I turn a decimal into a percent, the key part is remember that the percent means out of 100. So if I have 0.54, basically what I'm going to do is move the decimal place to the right 2 places. So it would end up being 54%. Now if I had 3,060, I would still, let's change this up. Let's pretend it was 0.30601. I would still just move the decimal place 2 places to the right. This would be 30.601%. Let's say it was 0.0004. Okay, I would still move the decimal place 2 places to the right, so it would be 0.04%. So basically to do decimals to percents, you're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay. Or you can also think about it as multiplying by 100. To turn percents into decimals, you're going to go the other way around. So what you're actually going to do is move the decimal 2 places to the left. Or you're basically going to divide by 100. Okay. What that basically means then, if I begin to look at some examples, okay, what I would basically begin to look at is say, if I had 36%, I would take it as the decimal being here, and I would go 2 places to the left, which would be 0.36. Okay. The next thing, okay, if this was 0.041%, okay, I would begin with the decimal here, move it 2 places to the left, fill in those with zeros, it becomes 0.00041. Okay. Or if it was 422%, I would begin the decimal place here, move it to the left, it becomes 4.22%. And that becomes my answers. And moving on to fractions into percents, this one gets a little bit trickier. If, for example, I have 1/2, if it is something that I can easily put into some number over 100, this number here is going to be what the percentage will be. So if I can easily figure out, oh well, 2 times 50 gives me 100, so 1 times 50 would give me x, I could say that x would equal 50%. What I could also set this up for doing is, for example, if I had 3/5 equals what number out of 100, I could also use the cross products, the Hart method. So 1 times 3 is 300, 5 times x is 5x, divide by 5, divide by 5, x will end up equaling 60, and it's going to be 60%. Okay, x would equal 60, and then it's just followed by the percent because it's out of 100. Another way of doing this would be to first take the fraction, turn it into a decimal by doing 3 divided by 5 to get 0.6, and then go through the process of changing the decimal to a percent, in this case 60%. So it's really your choice of what would work. Setting it up as a proportion up here is always going to work, as is going to turn it into a decimal first. To get a percent back to a fraction is going to be pretty simple as well, because I know that percent always means out of 100. So if I have 36%, it's 36 out of 100. And then I can reduce that. They're both divisible by 4, so I get 9/25 for an answer. Okay. If it's a little bit stranger, like 0.9%, what that means is that it's 0.9 out of 100. Now, I don't normally like, you don't normally want a decimal with a fraction in a fraction, so this would end up becoming 9 over 1,000. Reason being, 0.9 is really 9/10, and then it's over 100, so that's 9/10 divided by 100, keep change flip, 9/10 times 1 over 100. So this is how I get the 9 over 1,000. Okay, and that's pretty much about it. So hopefully this has been helpful to you, and looking forward to practicing and to learning how to basically use why these different forms come in handy.